Finley to throw. Over the middle, intercepted. Wolford again. Wolford the other way at the 30, the 40. Wolford to midfield. Miles Wolford with the pick. The Heels on the doorstep of an enormous victory. Williams is the running back next to Howe. Play action. Howe will now lob it down the near side. Newsom with a man all over him. Pins the ball against the back of the defender and brings it in. Heels can get a first down at the 3. Now, pump fake to the right. Now he's going to run to the left. Howe at the 5. Takes the shot. Hit mowing off the Canes for the touchdown. Sam Howe showing the toughness for 6. Cardinals down 4, 35-31. May has the shotgun snap. Pressure coming. Rolls to the right. Goes to the end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown, Antoine Green! 16 seconds to go. No flag. Snapping it off the 8-yard line. May pulls it, tries to roll to the far side. Oh, now he's going to throw it and score! Christian May throws it to Paystor in the end zone for the touchdown. They are throwing the play left-handed. Was rolling out on the run and threw it left-handed. Bernard fields it at the 26. Heading to the far side. Gio at the 35. Gio, he's at the 50. No, he's not. Yes, he is. Gio, he's going to take it for a touchdown. Are you kidding me?
What's going on, guys? Welcome into another edition of the Heel Tough Blog Podcast. And I hope you soaked it up with the intro that we have right there because, ladies and gentlemen, we are not going to be adding many highlights to that reel from this season, if any. It is going to be a long year for Tar Heel football, and we're going to talk about that. Of course, we got to talk about the game. Carolina just getting absolutely smashed by Central Florida. Again, we sit here. We're now 4 weeks into the season, and there are 2 weeks now that I think we have sat there in just utter disbelief as to how Carolina has gotten beaten. The other 2 weeks, you were able to get wins, but you were beating up on teams that simply weren't good. And now we have to have a serious discussion about where this team is at. We have to have a discussion about the dumbass notion that this was a staff that just thought of this like the preseason. I cannot believe that people honestly think that. And if that is the approach that this staff took, well, then this staff should be fired immediately. Because every one of these games matter. And with college football, you've only got 12 games. So they should be looked at as all opportunities to win, and you should be putting your best foot forward, not looking at it as a way to sort of gradually work the team into the season like you do in the NFL with the first few weeks of the year. We'll get to all of that. There's plenty of other stuff. We've got the quarterback conversation that we got to have yet again. There's plenty of stuff coming in on that. I've got multiple, sources that have told me different stuff about where the quarterback situation is at, what the players want, what the coaches want. There's a whole bunch of different stuff that we've got to talk about here on this edition of the show. But before we get into that, the most important thing that we're going to do here tonight is we're going to start off by saying, that we are praying for the family of Sean Clark, his friends, his players. He was the offensive line coach for Central Florida, was supposed to coach against Carolina this past weekend. He suffered a medical emergency during last week, and unfortunately, it was confirmed earlier today that he did pass away on Sunday morning. So just thought that would be the correct way to start out this podcast. It's saying that we are praying for everyone that he touched. For me personally, I got to interact with him a few times in terms of, talking to him on the phone, working for WFNZ. We would call him, a couple of times during the season, get him on to talk about where his team was at. We talked to him, especially, within the last year, talked to him, a couple of times about Hurricane Helene relief and all that kind of stuff. That was a really big thing that we were pushing, as a station at one time. And, I know that he was on multiple times during that, as well as, a few other times talking about, his team. I think with him, App State, he's not going to be remembered for having the most successful tenure there. I think he's someone that definitely deserved to have a better tenure there, especially being an App State guy. And it just unfortunately fell short for him. But truly one of the nicest coaches out there. Always a guy that used to stay on the line after he would talk to, Mac and Bone in the morning, or if it was Wes and Walker in the afternoon, or whoever it was, and would always, stay on the line. You would be able to talk to him a little bit and tell him good luck and everything like that. Really seemed like a real genuine person. And it seems like from the stories that we're seeing, that's really what everybody had to say about him.
Yeah, it's real sad. You're talking about a man that's 51 years old that, had a lot of life ahead of him, both as a football coach, but as a husband, as a father. And that's, unfortunately not gonna happen. And, as someone that, had to talk about some of the down times because he lost a lot of games at App State. I think what gets lost in what we do is we spend so much talking about wins and losses. We don't spend enough time talking about character. And you don't have the outpouring love and support for someone like Sean Clark if he wasn't a good man. And so that's what makes me sad, is that not only did we lose a good football coach, we lost, the society lost a good man, a family lost a husband, a family lost their dad. And it's just sad. And so, it's not just Carolina that's publicly, made a comment or two thinking about thoughts and prayers. It's virtually every program in the college football world, because, we know how deep those relationships go. And it really just tells you the type of impact he had on the sport, on the lives he was trying to impact. And in a world where there's a lot of darkness, we need more Sean Clarks in it, because he was a bright spot. And so, while on Saturday afternoon was hating what Central Florida was doing us on the football field, definitely got a soft spot in my heart for them today and the rest of the year moving forward, because it's going to be a hard thing in that locker room to deal with and to process. And it could be a rallying cry for them. And as we learned on Saturday, they could maybe be in the midst of having another special season under Scott Frost.
Yeah, I mean, they could be for sure. I am definitely sort of hoping that they have that type of season now, especially in honor of Sean Clark. That would be amazing for them if they were able to put together some type of year where they are at least competing for the Big 12 title. I think that would be amazing for him, amazing for those players along that offensive line, which really seemed to play incredibly well the other day. And that made me smile just a little bit this morning, thinking about the fact that those guys got to play one last time really hard for their coach that they cared about so much. For App State, hopefully they will have some sort of, celebration of life for him, which I would imagine they would, especially him being an App State guy and then coaching there, even, with the fact that they ended up firing him this last offseason. I definitely think we'll see the continuing outpour of support for him. We've seen it from many people around the sport, and I think we'll only continue to see it. We'll make the difficult transition, but necessary transition to the game that Carolina played the other day. And I mean, look, man, this team, it is pretty bad at this point in the season. When you come out against a team that was predicted to finish last in the Big 12 to start the season, most of the preseason magazines had them at the bottom of this conference. We thought, okay, Carolina is going to be able to come out, measure where their progress is at, and regardless, even if Carolina was to lose, we would feel better about that season opening loss. Thing now, you could argue we almost feel worse, because this team, which is frankly not that good, ended up scoring 34 in this game. They beat Carolina 34-9. And again, it just looked like a team that was completely overmatched and a team that was completely outcoached. And that was something that I just don't see how anybody saw coming into this season. I don't see anybody out there that thought that this was going to be a poorly coached team. But we've seen it so far. These guys do not look ready for these games. Carolina never looked ready in this game. I mean, this was not even TCU. This was not even Carolina put together a drive early on that inspired confidence. Central Florida got the ball, drove right down the field, and you knew right then and there it was going to be a long day for Carolina. And, I mean, the offense is just miserable. We'll talk more about that. The defense is just lacking the technique that it needs to. There's still no pass rush. There's still a lack of pass defense that is allowing teams to be able to move the ball as successfully as they are on Carolina. It just looks like a complete disaster. And right now, I mean, it's hard not to sit here and think that this team simply just does not have the talent to compete with power conference competition, which I think is stunning considering that Carolina made some additions in the transfer portal that we felt pretty good about. Even though they were in the spring, we thought, guys like Andrew Simpson coming in, DeAndre Robinson, Isaiah Johnson, these guys were coming from programs that were power conference programs, or in the case of Andrew Simpson, coming from a team that made the college football playoff last year. I am shocked that this team is at this point already, this early in the season, and it's hard to think that things are going to turn around for Carolina after yet another miserable loss against a Big 12 team.
Yeah, the outlook is bleak right now for 2025. And that's with this schedule that is, even with the bad Clemson team, very manageable. But the path to a bowl game right now just doesn't seem likely. That's the reality of the situation when you've been you played 2 games against Power 4 competition and you lost 48-14 and 34-9. And I think the bigger surprise, the bigger frustration is, one, how unprepared Carolina has looked in their 2 games against the Big 12, combined with the inability, the lack thereof, to make adjustments on the fly as the game moved along. The 2 things that we probably said from the moment Bill Belichick got hired, Carolina would be a definitive upgrade over where they were under Mac Brown. You probably they'd go into games better prepared because of what the Belichick pedigree would bring with the staff that he would bring. And then you felt like, okay, even if you have the game plan and you get caught off guard, which does happen, or they're able to expose what you're trying to do. Well, you'll be able to adjust better, in between drives at halftime, whatever, to put yourself in better position to win games that maybe you've lost here in years past, and that's not happening. You could argue Carolina has looked less prepared than they ever looked under Mac Brown, and there's been a lack of in-game adjustment that points me back to the one consistent criticism you heard from the people that know the sport inside and out that thought Bill Belichick was going to struggle in year 1. And the one thing they pointed at was that when they looked at their roster, they lacked dudes. Because if there's one thing that maybe matters more so in college than in the NFL, and not saying you don't got to have talent in the NFL, but you got to have talent in college, man. It's really hard to scheme your way to wins. It just is. You've got to have bodies. You've got to have difference makers on both lines of scrimmage. You got to have difference makers at your skill position spots, and you got to have difference makers in your back 7. And I don't know how many difference makers are on this roster, which really puts this coaching staff in a bind to where you've got to maximize every ounce of potential out of them. And I don't know if this coaching staff today is equipped to do that themselves, which is just a real frustrating thing to say out loud, but that's the reality of the situation. That's the reality of where this program finds itself 4 weeks in under Bill Belichick, heading into their first of 2 bye weeks in a 3-week span, where even if we said back in August, if you get to the bye at 2-2, well, now they'll be able to take advantage of that off week, and they'll be able to improve. And I have as little faith as I think I've had in quite some time that this staff will use the next week and a half to reevaluate what they've done well, what they've done wrong, and look to improve the next time we see them take the field against what's okay to say now, a bad Clemson team. I still think it's fair to expect Carolina to go out and get pummeled because it's what we've seen so far against Power 4 competition.
Oh, I mean, if you're picking Carolina to win that game, you're just stupid. I'm sorry. There's just no way around it. You're an idiot. I mean, this team can't beat Central Florida. How in the world are they going to beat Clemson? Because Clemson talked about having the talent. I mean, yeah, they've got talent all over that roster. That's not their issue. Their guys, I think, just read way too much into what the preseason expectations were for them, and they believed that some of these teams would just roll over for them. Now they're going to get a bye week to sort of recollect themselves. I feel much more hopeful for Clemson than I would feel for Carolina. One, Dabo Swinney's been at this a while at the college level. He's had a ton of success. And two, they have the talent that Carolina simply lacks. I mean, yeah, and the thing is, when you talk about it, how much blame should Michael Lombardi get? I think there are a lot of people that are bringing up that question. Look, he deserves a lot of criticism. There's no doubt about that. But it's really hard to hire a head coach or to bring guys in when you haven't yet hired a head coach. And we knew it was going to happen. We knew that it was going to be Bill Belichick, but Carolina waited way too long into the winter transfer window to hire their head coach. And you can blame the board of trustees for letting that happen. They were the ones that really stalled the process of that. And right now that is what is causing Carolina to have a team that simply is not competitive this year. But I mean, I never saw it being this bad. I mean, you look at some of the things we talked about, how successful this team has been in terms of the lack of penalties. That's an area that they seem to be more disciplined in. Well, yeah, they're disciplined, but I mean, the rest of the fundamentals just don't seem to be there for these guys. I mean, some of these guys look like they've never played football before.
Well, it's against Power 4 competition, because against Charlotte, against Richmond, you saw them play, I think, the way that they're being taught to play.
Well, but Charlotte, let's just say it. Charlotte was not great either.
No, and it wasn't. But it still looked better. It still looked. I mean, as someone that listens to all of Bill's pressers and recaps them, the two things he talked about in those two games were that Carolina played cleaner, more fundamental football. So what's the disconnect when you walk onto the field against TCU and against Central Florida? It's the fact that our talent is closer to what Charlotte and Richmond resembles than what TCU and Central Florida currently have on their rosters. Maybe I'm in the wrong here. I don't know how much you blame Michael Lombardi for this. I really don't. And maybe that's because I want to defend the guy that actually gets behind the microphone every week and talks, and does some of the bare minimum stuff that you're supposed to get out of your college football head coach. Like, he's the guy having to go do the radio show because Bill Belichick's got to, eat dinner with his girlfriend. At least he's there. At least he's accountable. And at least he told us, hey, he told, as much as anyone, he told us this is going to be a build. This is going to be a process where the team we are in September won't be the same team we are in October, won't be the same team that we are in November. Now, if he's being honest with himself, he probably didn't see it being this bad. But I think he was a lot more open to Carolina being where they are now than maybe we were as fans, which is, that's why we're fans, and it's why he's getting paid the job that he's doing. He was given a task that I don't know how many people, in all honesty, when Carolina hired a first-time GM, would have been able to add as many dudes as he was able to help add to the roster. Because that's pretty much what the task became, was how many usable bodies can we get in here? Because if I think, if we're being honest, I think it's going to be another busy December where Carolina's flushing a lot of guys out and bringing a lot of new guys in. And maybe that was always the goal. The question that we raise now is, with the way that it's looked and the way that it's trending, are you going to be able to bring in the type of talent the second time around where you've got your full staff in place to go portal? Are you gonna be able to do a much better job in what's going to be now a one transfer portal window cycle, as opposed to what you had last year, where we clearly said the roster improved in the spring, in large part because of when Belichick and when everybody were hired and were put in place. So that's going to be a to be determined question. But there's no denying that the way that it's looked through the first month, it's hard to believe that they're going to be able to sell themselves as a place that you want to come play football, unless they are maximizing the $13.5 million that they've set aside from the revenue sharing. And there's going to be even greater financial commitment from the NIL people, where maybe you make another additional $13 million to have a $25 million roster, because quite frankly, that's where it feels like it's going to have to be if this team's going to be anywhere more competitive in 2026 than they've been so far here in 2025.
Yeah, you're going to have to pay guys to come and play for you because nobody's going to want to. Like, the lust of playing for Bill Belichick is starting to wear off already. You can tell that. You're going to start losing recruits in the 2026 class. It's going to happen. I mean, people are trying to say, no, these guys are going to stay on board. The only reason these guys would stay on board is if you basically come out and tell them, look, everybody on this team sucks. So you're going to get a chance to play for this team starting next year. And that might be a selling point for a lot of guys at the high school level. The transfer portal, I don't know how much that's going to be a selling point for some of the top guys. I think for some of the top guys, they're going to be saying, why do we want to come to Carolina when we can go somewhere else, get similar money, and have a chance to compete for a championship, or even just compete at a high enough level? I'm worried about the direction that this is going in year one, because we said that in order for it to be successful, we thought that this team needed to make a bowl game. Well, they're not even going to come close to that. Like, this team right now ain't sniffing a bowl game. So, and you said, Michael Lombardi said, hey, we're not going to be the same team in September that we were going to be in October, November. Are we sure about that? Like, as we sit here today, are we really sure? Because I'm going to tell you, they did not get better from game 1 to game 4. They got worse. That team that you saw out on the field on Saturday was worse than the team that played TCU. And I did not think that was possible. But you could say whatever you want about, TCU scored 48 points. TCU's a team that's competing to win the Big 12 this year. Central Florida is a team that's competing to win 4 games. I mean, it's just that plain and simple. And you could say, well, they're off to a 3-0 start. Okay, they beat Jacksonville State, who is not a good football team anymore because Rich Rodriguez is not there. They beat an FCS opponent. I don't care who it is, but the team that they beat is North Carolina A&T, who is terrible. And they beat Carolina. That's it. And from what we've seen so far, Carolina is terrible too. So, I mean, I cannot get behind the thought that this team is all of a sudden going to come out and look better after the bye week, that this team's going to look better throughout this season. And the worse that it gets, the harder it's going to be to convince guys to come to Carolina. Now, part of the reason why Carolina is as bad as they are is because the quarterback play is just pathetic. I mean, there's just no way around it. This offense right now is a disaster because the quarterback play is terrible. They had 217 yards of total offense, ran for just 63 yards on 25 carries, which we'll get to the offensive line and the issues that they have here in just a little bit. But now the question becomes, as we sit here, The quarterback play has been terrible with Gio Lopez. I mean, 11 of 14 in this game, 87 yards. But I mean, right there, I mean, just 11 completions for 87 yards, not going to get it done. Most of that stuff is either behind the line of scrimmage or at the line of scrimmage. It doesn't seem like he has any confidence to go downfield at all. There's no confidence in his game whatsoever. I mean, he's seeing ghosts out there, especially against power competition. I mean, he's now in 2 games against power competition. He is thrown for a little under 100 or right at 150 yards in those 2 games. He has no touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a fumble. And I mean, it has just been a complete disaster for him. Max Johnson has looked better, but I think, one of the things that we got to ask ourselves with Max Johnson is what kind of upside does he really provide? But the debate continues to rage as to whether or not this is on Gio Lopez or this is on Freddie Kitchens, because right now, I mean, Freddie Kitchens' offense just does not look anywhere near as good as it needs to look. There continues to be issues with getting out of the huddle. There continues to be issues with playing with pace. This team is incredibly slow, got to be the slowest moving team in all of college football. And, all that right there doesn't seem to set a quarterback up for success. But when you've got a guy that simply just does not have it, I mean, at this point, you call a spade. Gio Lopez is just not good enough to play at this level. I mean, right now, it's just a complete disaster on the offensive side of the ball. And, for Carolina, I don't know how many solutions are out there, how many great solutions are out there for this offense to get better.
Yeah, the simple answer is both. They're both an issue. Is trying to figure out which one tips the scale more and then who is the bigger issue of the two. We'll start with Freddie. The game plan, there's not been a game plan that he's put together that has made sense for an entire football game. And we've played 4 of these things. And his superpower, which was the opening game script, nowhere to be found in this game on Saturday. So he couldn't even get Carolina in a position to be competitive for at least the first half of the first quarter against Central Florida. The offensive skill position rotation on Saturday was dumbfounding. I mean, we came away from Richmond saying Damon June's running back 1, Davian Goss is running back 2, and Benjamin Hall, if I remember correctly, had more carries than both of those guys had in the first half. And they were determined to run Benjamin Hall, a guy who is not an explosive running back, is less explosive than Caleb Hood. And Caleb Hood is not an explosive running back either. Like, he is a 3 to 4 yard a down running back, where that's all he can give you. There's no burst. There's nothing. Once he gets hit, he's going to go down. And yet Carolina kept running him repeatedly. Then you go to the passing game. You finally get Jordan Shipp involved the week before. He's still your best, most gifted receiver. And in a normal offense with normal average quarterback play would be an all ACC caliber wideout. Instead, Carolina was force-feeding the ball to a true freshman wide receiver that, in all honesty and transparency, didn't know who he was. Had not heard the name the first 3 games. And that guy leads the team in targets in a game on the road on Saturday. And so what are we doing? Like, I get the rotation and I get the evaluation, but this is game 4. And you're still just doing things on offense that make no sense. And there's no continuity. There's no rhythm for the quarterback, for the offensive line, for the skill position guys. The play calling sucks. The execution is even worse. And that's why their offense looks as bad as it does, where they rank 134th out of 136 in total offense. That should not happen at a school in the ACC. Let alone a school like Carolina, that because they've been so offensive driven since 2012, there's never really been a shortage of skill position talent on the roster. Now you get to Gio, and you hate to say it after 4 games, but he just ain't it. Like he's a fine kid, and I think he means well, and I think he tries hard, but he can't play at this level, man. And I think if they're being honest with themselves, they know that, or they should know that. But on the flip side, what does playing Max Johnson really do for you this year? Because if Max Johnson can't get you to a bowl game, and I don't think that he can, what's the point in playing him? Which really just leaves you in a world of hurt at the quarterback spot, because I don't think they had any intentions on playing Bryce Baker in 2025. But if I'm Bill Belichick and I'm this staff, and let's say they truly are committed to the long haul, and he's going to be here for 3 to 5 years, and he wants to be a part of rebuilding this roster from the ground up, I would take a hard look at what the quarterback spot is right now, and I'd have everything on the deck, on the table for that Clemson game, because the guy you pay $2.1 million can't play at this level, and playing Max Johnson isn't really going to do anything for the short term or the long term. And I think they really got to consider, figuring out what they got in Bryce Baker now, as opposed to maybe waiting until next year.
Well, I mean, look, first of all, I don't think that Bryce Baker is the first true freshman that would be up. I think Arturi Newkirk is ahead of him, and I think the Richmond game showed you that. That's stunning to me. I mean, that's stunning to say the least, because I think you look at what Bryce Baker was at the high school level, and you would think this is pretty much a layup. Like, this has got to be a guy that's going to be successful at the college level, because of his accuracy, because of his, his arm strength, everything like that. But it just isn't translating. And again, that really at this point makes you wonder, if it's not translating with multiple guys, then what is the point of having Freddie Kitchens as your offensive coordinator, as your play caller? I mean, it is a disaster right now. His offense is incredibly vanilla. There is nothing that is, that stands out. There's no direction for Carolina on that side of the ball. I mean, you ask yourself, what does this team actually do well on the offensive side of the ball? Nothing. There's something you can lean your hat, that you can lay your hat on and say, this is what we do well. We can just continue to run the ball. We can just continue to throw the football. Nothing is working right now, and there doesn't seem to be any adjustment that's being made. Again, this is our system. We're going to continue to run it into the ground, and if it doesn't succeed, then it is what it is. Freddie Kitchens is a moron. We know this. We have seen this at the college level from him. I mean, there's a reason he was an assistant. We saw it at the NFL level. That's what I meant to say. We saw it. The only time that he was successful was with Baker Mayfield. And we're starting to learn at this point that Baker Mayfield is a much better quarterback than a lot of us wanted to give him credit for. So how much do you actually credit Freddie Kitchens for his success? I don't know how much you really put on that plate, because when I saw him with the Giants, some of the other offensive coordinator spots that he was at, he was terrible. And I get it. You wanted to keep an NFL mind around. Nobody's saying that he couldn't have been the tight ends coach, but you should have found a more inspiring hire offensively. To me, I really believe that if you're Carolina, you should look seriously at making Matt Lombardi your offensive play caller if this continues. I mean, when do you make that change? Probably after Clemson. But I would seriously consider that if the offense continues to look that bad, if they roll out a new quarterback. For me, there's no question you got to roll out a new quarterback, though. Like, you cannot put Gio Lopez back out there. I don't care if he's healthy enough to play. Pete Nakos had a report earlier today that his injury was not season-ending. He's begun rehab, and there is some belief that he could be back at the start of October. I don't care. I don't want to see him again. I have seen enough of him, and it is enough to know that he is not ready for this offense this year. You sign him to a 2-year deal. He's a sophomore. If you want to keep him around, if you want to keep him a part of what you do moving forward, whatever. I mean, I think it's stupid. I think it would be terrible because I think he's just a guy that fits at the group of 5 level, doesn't fit what Carolina wants to do, fits a more modern offense. Carolina doesn't want to run a more modern offense. They want that pro style offense, one that's similar to what Michigan runs. And I've said it 1,000 times. If you're going to do that, you better be efficient. The reason that you start Max Johnson in this next game is because you are wanting to evaluate the rest of the roster. And right now, that gives you the best chance to be able to do that. Because Bryce Baker is not going to be able to come in there and take over, and all of a sudden things are going to look completely different. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe later in the year, Carolina does go to that. But I think at this moment, you look at what is best for this team. You look at the guy that this offense fits the best, and it's got to be Max Johnson. Now, again, Freddie Kitchens has to take a serious look at himself and figure out how can we throw more creative wrinkles into this offense. But I believe that having a guy that is not afraid of the moment, has the ability to throw downfield and seems confident enough in himself to be able to do that, Max Johnson gives you the best chance to win right now, gives you, more importantly, the best chance to evaluate this roster right now. And that is the most important thing that you have to do, because you've got to figure out. I had someone that told me earlier today, man, we got one guy on the offensive side of the ball that is even worthy of playing at Carolina, is even worthy of playing at the Power 4 level. He said that was Jordan Shipp. I said, whoa, hold on. There's at least two, because you got DeMond June. But there are very few players on that side of the ball that I think right now you can confidently say are worthy of being at this level. And if you're going to have that much turnover again next offseason, which I think you're right, you need to be able to evaluate that side of the football.
No, that's definitely a valid point by you, and probably why that needs to be the direction that they go. And like, there's this part of me that wants to see Max Johnson play, just because I think for what he's endured off the field, the kid deserves a chance to go out there and play some more football, because he's not going to make it in the NFL. I mean, he's not even going to go to Canada and be a quarterback. Like, when he's done playing at Carolina, his playing career is over. If he's going to stay in football, it's going to be, from a coaching, a scouting, one of those types of roles. So I'd like to see someone that's overcome some adversity, have the potential to just play out some games down the stretch and make some memories or two that he can be able to look back on fondly during his, 2+ years here at Carolina. You mentioned Freddie Kitchens and the offense. You know what the offense needs to be? It needs to become a college football offense.
Yes.
And I think that was always my biggest worry and concern with the Belichick hire, was would he understand that the offensive game at this level is played completely different than it is at the NFL level, to the point where more of what you see in college is infiltrating what they do at the NFL level, not the other way around. There is no RPO in this offense, which is like at the college level, that is a basic ingredient of what you do.
There's plenty of that at the NFL level right now too. So
there's no tempo, there's no pace, there's nothing of this offense that screams that it looks like what you see in a college football game. They very rarely, I think, spread the field. They very rarely run crossing routes to get their best wide receivers, matched up with linebackers. There's just nothing that looks like what we see when we're watching 9 hours of other football games, because this is what happens. We watch 12-3, and it's, man, this is great. Love college football. From 3:30 to 7 o'clock on Saturday, my life sucked.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally it's poop on a television. That's what we're watching. It's awful.
And then from 7 to midnight, or whenever we fall asleep, you reminded why you love college football and why it's great to love football. And you try to forget about what you're watching. But I mean, it's early, and I don't want us to be the reputation of we're the podcast that fires everybody. But if they were to release a statement tomorrow that Freddie Kitchens has been fired, and they've promoted Matt Lombardi to offensive coordinator, I would not hate it. Look at where he came from,
Yes.
and look at what that offense is doing while losing a bunch of dudes to the NFL. Like, in case you don't know, he came from Oregon, and in case you don't know, that offense hasn't skipped a beat. They're still putting up points and yards like no other. After losing all the guys they've lost to the NFL the last couple of years, so and I think that would be something that if that were to happen, that would actually believe more that Belichick wants to be here, and that Belichick is concerned, that Belichick is pissed off about where his team and his program is at 4 games in. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't. I think we're stuck with Freddie Kitchens until the end of the year, and that could be the biggest reason why we never really know what we could have been on offense, because I just don't think he fits the college game with what he wants to try to run and execute from a schematic standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, with Lombardi, I think there's upside. I mean, you look at the fact that not only was he at Oregon and having success, I mean, he was having success with a quarterback that was smaller in stature. So he clearly knows what you have to be able to do to set up a quarterback like Gio Lopez, also dealt with a lefty quarterback in Dylan Gabriel. So I think there is a lot of upside to a guy like Matt Lombardi. And you could say, well, even that is sort of a nepotism move right there. Doesn't matter. I think he's a guy that certainly at this point, has done enough at the college level to be given a chance. What has Freddie Kitchens done at the college level? He's been an assistant. He was a guy that when he was back at South Carolina was just didn't even have an on-field role for them. He is not a guy that I think fits this college level. And I asked this of these guys on the offensive side of the ball when I was at ACC Media Day. I asked them, is this offense going to look different than what we saw in the bowl game? And they said, yeah, no, it's going to look completely different. We're going to be an offense that adjusts to what the opponent's weaknesses are and everything like that. That is absolutely not what this offense is. First of all, if you are going to adjust to what the opposing defense is doing, you have to have an identity first. This team has zero identity on that side of the ball. So, I mean, yeah, to me, I don't want to be the guy that's firing people either. And I'm not saying that you have to fire Freddie Kitchens. You can keep him on staff as a tight ends coach. I think he did a great job coaching the tight ends. And I think you look at the tight ends this year, you got a group of guys that are, really tough to sort of evaluate. I mean, you've got Jordan Owens, who is in the game for blocking scenarios. You've got Jake Johnson, who's in the game for passing scenarios, which, by the way, how much more predictable could that be? You know exactly what Carolina's doing when they have certain guys in the formation. It can't be that easy, guys. It cannot be that easy to predict what you're going to be able to do. If we can do that at home, what do you think the defensive coordinator on the other side and the players on the field are able to do? I don't care that it worked against Charlotte or Richmond. You don't have the talent right now to be able to overpower these teams that you're going to play and be able to just do whatever you want to do like you did in those 2 games. You have to scheme up ways to get wins. And right now, that does not feel like what they're able to do on the offensive side of the ball. And you look at the trenches, I mean, it's a disaster. I mean, the offensive line, this was their worst performance, I thought. In terms of the grades from Pro Football Focus, they didn't see it really that way, but I don't really care what they see. I saw it with my own eyes. This was the worst performance of the season. They were pathetic in run blocking. Most of the day had absolutely nothing for Central Florida. And if you're getting pushed around by Central Florida, you're getting pushed around by a guy in Rodney Laura that you determined earlier this offseason wasn't good enough to play for you. So he was going up against those offensive linemen, the majority of those guys. The only one that wasn't in spring practice with Carolina that played the other day was Will Osteen. That was it. Everybody else was there in the spring that he played against. And that guy was having a dominant performance against you. A guy that you said, yeah, you're not good enough to play for us. That is pretty freaking damning to have that defensive line dominate you the way that it did. I mean, they were getting after the quarterback too. It wasn't all on Gio. There was pressure in his face. I mean, at one point, I don't even remember which offensive lineman it was. I think it was either Chad Lindbergh or Aiden Banfield. Literally just gets thrown to the side, and it leads to that first interception because there's pressure in the face of Gio Lopez. He decides for some reason, I'm not going to eat this ball. I'm still going to throw this with a man right in my face because I just don't make any sense with the decisions that I make. It's just, oh my God. This team, dude, this offensive line, I did not think it could get worse than the last few years, and I don't think they're as bad of a pass protection unit as they've been the last few years, but they are so much worse in run blocking. I mean, even Amarian, I don't know what he would be able to do behind this offensive line because they can't run block to save their life.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a lot. I think what really happened on Saturday, it was just an overwhelmed point where there was a lack of communication, there was a lack of adjustment, there was a lack of trust, and then there was just a lack of physicality. And if you're lacking everything but you're physical, sometimes your physical nature can overcome some of that stuff. But when you're not winning at the line of scrimmage, you're not winning at the point of attack, and you're not communicating, you're getting overwhelmed, you don't trust, your quarterback doesn't trust the pocket, then it makes what happened on Saturday become possible. And so that's something that Carolina's got to clean up. That's something that, again, you'd think with a Belichick-led staff would improve. They would be able to correct those issues as in game as it moves along. That was not the case, and it hasn't been the case so far this season. And as we can talk about some of the injuries that have plagued the group, but you got a guy back on Saturday that was supposed to make you feel and look a lot better, and that did not transpire. And this is not the best defensive line that Carolina has played or will play the rest of the year. You still got to see a Clemson defensive front that, whether the production has been there or not, is gifted. You've got to see a State defensive front that is probably the strength of that defense. And then you got to deal with a State defense that is always looking to tee off on you. And so you kind of wonder, how could it get worse? And we don't want to find out. The bigger concern is what this defensive line is right now. Because it's as non-effective a defensive line group as we have seen since the end of the Larry Fedora era. They cannot win one-on-one battles. Nope. And against Power 4 competition, you only have one corner that you feel good about, which makes it harder for Steven Belichick to draw up blitzes, which really means this defense is going to resemble what it's resembled the last handful of years. And I think that's pretty deflating for a Carolina football fan because, again, I think they brought in talent on that side of the ball, man. Kamori House is a good football player. Andrew Simpson can be a good football player. I thought he was terrible on Saturday. I thought his body language was terrible on Saturday. And there were 3 to 5 plays that he literally quit on that if Carolina's in a one possession ball game, he's probably making those plays. But because he was down 27, he was just kind of running around. Not good for your culture, by the way. You've got Thaddeus Dixon, who I think is an all ACC caliber corner, is going to be in the NFL this time next year. But none of that matters when you can't win up front. And Carolina simply right now cannot win up front. We don't know when Price Yates is coming back, if he's coming back at all. And it really just makes it hard to see that group being competitive moving forward because, Tavian Jackson isn't the best quarterback you're going to see the rest of the way. You're going to see teams that got better skill position talent than what Central Florida has to offer. And if they were able to score the points that they scored and move the ball the way that they moved the ball, I hate to see what, a team like Cal, which is just, fun on offense. What is CJ Bailey? What are these guys going to do to a defense that, once again, just seems overmatched?
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine what that trip to Cal is going to look like. I mean, Saga Puatele has been really good for most of the year. He was not good the other night, but I mean, are you really going to be able to affect him? I mean, it is as simple as this defensive line is killing this team. There is no pressure up front for these guys. I mean, you saw it. I mean, last week, I mean, we said they got pressure. I said they did a good job of getting pressure in that game. I lied to myself. That's not true. They still should have pressured Richmond way more than they did. They were just terrible in this game. I mean, they created 1 sack and 9 total pressures on 33 dropbacks. Just, I mean, one of the simple things that you have to be able to do in order to have success as a pass defense is get pressure on the quarterback, especially when you're a team that is going to be playing off coverage a lot on the outside, which Carolina does. And so if you're going to play like that, then you've got to be able to win at the line of scrimmage. You have to be able to win those one-on-one battles. And that's the thing. You can't scheme up pressure because it doesn't matter. Even if you're scheming up pressure, guys are not doing enough up front to even get to the quarterback in those situations. Yeah. Even when they get one-on-one, it does not matter. So, I mean, I'm with you, man. I thought they went out and got the talent here, and maybe Price Yates means that much. Maybe he's going to come back all of a sudden, and he's going to put up a season where somehow in half a season he has like 9 sacks or something like that. And we'll all be saying to ourselves, that was what they were lacking. That really changed a lot of things. I don't think that's going to be the case. I really don't. I think for now, we have no idea when Price Yates is coming back. There has been no updates on him. I mean, I get it. Everything is being played close to the vest, and maybe we'll start to learn a little bit more here because we're getting into conference play. They're going to have injury reports that are released, everything like that. But, I mean, I just can't see him really making that much of a difference to where Carolina is just all of a sudden that much better of a team. I mean, I could be wrong. Kamen Rucker was like that the last few years for Carolina. When he was on the field, it was completely different than when he was off the field. But, yeah. I mean, Smith-Vilbert, like, swing and a miss. Swing and a freaking miss, dude. That guy is not it at all. I don't care how well he is built. That was just a complete miss. Milcart, Abujide, I mean, he has moments where he looks good. But, again, this is a guy that's coming up from Delaware. And, yeah, Delaware's an FBS team this year. Delaware was an FCS team last year. So he's a guy that's coming up basically 2 levels. That's significant, guys. It's going to take time for a guy to be able to adjust like that. So he's a guy that maybe as the season goes along, he gets better. But, I mean, we talked about DeAndre Robinson. We talked about Isaiah Johnson. I mean, now DeAndre Robinson, he's young. He's still a sophomore. So he could be a guy that really develops as time goes along. But these guys are just not good enough right now for Carolina. And that's the difference. I mean, you look at the run game. I mean, 143 yards rushing in this game for this offense. And you could say, well, was it the running backs that were really killing? It wasn't even the running backs. See, again, what we've seen for years for Carolina defenses, and we thought maybe it was going to be different this year. Couldn't stop the quarterback. 10 carries, 66 yards, and a touchdown for Taven Jackson in this game. Outside of that, they did a pretty decent job of containing everything else. The other guy that really had a big day on the ground in terms of yards per carry was the backup quarterback. When they put in Ja'Cory Brown, he ends up running for 31 yards on 4 carries. But the running backs, they held Miles Montgomery to 2.9 yards per carry and Jaden Nixon to just 2 yards a carry. So they did what they were supposed to do there, but when you can't contain a mobile quarterback, that's going to lead to a successful day rushing. So mean, look, man, it's got to get better. It's got to get better because right now you're a team that, I mean, you talked about it. Taven Jackson is far from the best quarterback that you're going to play. I don't even know if Taven Jackson, even as bad as Cade Klubnik is playing, is he a better quarterback than Cade Klubnik? I don't know. So there's a good chance that the next opponent that you face could have an even better quarterback. What's that going to lead to? Him just destroying you? I mean, and yeah, once you get to Cal, when you get to, good Lord, Virginia, I mean, Chandler Morris is playing some unbelievable football right now. What's that going to look like? Darian Mensah, CJ Bailey. Oh, yeah, these guys, I mean, they are going to destroy you if you are not careful. So, I mean, and the one thing that really stuck out to me, too, and it didn't show up in the stat sheet, man, this team sucks at tackling. They are terrible. I mean, again, you go back to the opener, 19 missed tackles. I went on Pro Football Focus today. They said we had 9 missed tackles. Pro Football Focus, I need you to reevaluate because there is no way in hell that this group had 9 the entire game. Maybe in the first half, but they had more than that in this entire game. I promise you that. All that you need to know when it comes to this receiving game and how bad Carolina is at tackling, 223 passing yards in this game for Taven Jackson. Of those 223 yards, 152 of them came after the catch. If that's going to happen, you ain't winning bleep. You're not winning anything. You stink.
Yeah, and it really points back to what was a real big issue, I feel like, under Gene Chizik the last couple of years, where he put his guys in position to make plays, and they weren't good enough, tough enough, technique enough to make plays. And again, against Charlotte, against Richmond, this was not an issue. So what's the disconnect when you play teams with a pulse, teams that have talent? They have
better athletes, and these guys are not good enough.
Yeah, I was getting there. Like, it suggests that their talent far exceeds your talent. And I think, you know, that's probably a shock to the system for Bill Belichick, but I mean, Steve Belichick, because I had to listen to my dad go on a 15-minute rant about how Steven Belichick sucks as a play caller and a coordinator. And the reality of that is incorrect. Like, as someone, you know, and you and I watch as much college football as anyone that covers this team. We watch as much national college football as anyone out there. I can say that confidently because we spend every Saturday together from noon till midnight watching. I mean, I got 3 televisions. We probably watch 25 to 30 games during the day. When at Washington, his defenses were good because he had legitimate talent that could execute what his defense wants, what his defense demands, what his defense requires. And when he was calling plays for the Patriots, like, yeah, Bill helped, but you know, Bill was kind of hands off because he learned with his son, hey, he's got this. He can put together a good defense. And those were kind of the before he came to the college game, why those New England teams were so good, because that offense had fallen off. And so, you know, it suggests that, okay, we got to get more talent. We got to get more dudes.
Yep.
But I just find it, you know, hard to believe that guys are going to want to come here. But this is maybe where the fact that this is more like the NFL matters, where Carolina can literally go into the portal, treat it like free agency, and buy guys, because they have to buy guys. You need to buy dudes. You need to buy a bunch of them, because a lot of these guys that Carolina brought in to fill out the roster are not going to be here, I think, this time next year, whether Belichick's on the staff or whether we're starting over with someone new. But the missed tackling was disappointing on Saturday, because it felt like there were times that Carolina was there to make plays. And if they make the plays, the game remains more competitive. But you knew we were in trouble when on the first drive of the game, Central Florida converted 3 third downs of 7 or more to go. Like, they looked more comfortable in 3rd and 7 than they did on 1st and 10, or when they looked more comfortable with their backs against the wall in terms of down or distance, as opposed to when they had 4 plays ahead of them, which is an indictment of what they think you're capable of doing defensively. So it's all around disappointing. It's all around frustrating, because for all the things we may have taken for granted, I just never think we thought it would look this bad 4 games in. But that's where Carolina finds itself. It's gut check time for this program under Bill Belichick, and that's not something you should be saying after 4 games.
Yeah. I tend to be with you when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. I really do think it's about the Jimmies and the Joes.
Yeah, they just don't got guys, man. Like, you can't win up front, it does not matter, dude. You could blitz, you could do cover 0. It does not matter.
And these guys, they're not talented enough to do cover 0. They don't have guys on the back end that are good enough. I'm sorry. Like, there are guys like Will Hardy. I didn't think he played bad the other day, but he certainly isn't great. He isn't perfect. I don't think, we saw Marcus Allen. I mean, oh my God, he was so bad in the opener. It's gotten better since then. But I mean, yeah, the other day it was just a lot of the short and intermediate stuff. They didn't win downfield. That hasn't really been the issue for Carolina. You've had 1 pass this year where they've really beaten you downfield. Yeah. And that was in the opener. Everything else is in the short and intermediate game. And what is the key to stopping short and intermediate passing games? Tackling. And it just isn't there for these guys. And that goes back to fundamentals. That's where, because they said we were going to spend more time tackling in the offseason. Well, I mean, where is that showing up right now? It's not. Like, these are the fundamental things that we did not see going wrong under Bill Belichick. And for some reason, it's still happening. Guys, it does not feel like guys are still being held accountable. Like, it felt like that in the first game of the season. I mean, the other day, did we see guys get pulled out of the game because they weren't playing well? I mean, I saw Jalen Thompson enter at one point at corner. That was about it. And I don't even know who he entered for. But other than that, I didn't see any other guys that are backups that are very clearly guys. Where's that going? That is what we thought we were getting. We thought we were getting a no-nonsense guy that was going to have this team fundamentally sound. And that is just simply not where we're at right now. And that to me is, I mean, it's stunning, because, I mean, I had really bought in. But, I mean, even the me that thought when this hire took place that maybe this was a questionable hire, that it might not end up working out, I don't think anybody thought that it would be this bad right now. And so, I mean, look, there are people that are trying to spread the notion that this is a group that, this first 4 games was really looked at as preseason, and that all of a sudden we're going to come out and see a different team. I just, to that thought, you got to be kidding me. Like, if you really believe that, I need you to seek help, because there is something wrong with you. I don't know if you're doing drugs. I don't know if you have something wrong mentally. I have no idea. I'm a guy that deals with mental health. I'm not joking about it, but there is something off about you, because this team is not going to change in 2 weeks. It's not. This team is still going to be horrible when they take the field against Clemson. Now, what you're hoping is that with Clemson in their head as much as they are this season, somehow you stumble into a miracle win. But I'm going to tell you right now, I am not going in thinking that. But that mindset that this was just looked at as preseason, this was the evaluation time. I know that we've talked about that, but I think with what you saw on Saturday, there is no way that you can believe this team is going to show up and look any different when they take the field against Clemson. You can't.
No. And if the staff treated that like that, there's a level of arrogance there that needs to be investigated. Also, you can't treat the first 4 games like that at the college level and compete for a national championship. Not at Carolina, or even a conference championship. In the NFL, when you play 17 games, you can do that, and we can't do it here. And I from what we've seen through the first 4 weeks, there's no belief to think that it's going to look cleaner, better, more efficient when they come back against Clemson. Because Belichick said it's going to take 5 to 6 games before this to quit. Well, guess what game number Clemson is? 5. So if he's being honest with himself, then we still got 2 more games to go, baby. Of Carolina looking like whatever they've looked like through the first handful of games, and so
and there would be progress if you were getting towards that. I said it earlier. I don't know if you agree with me. This game on Saturday was worse than the opener. That was a worse performance than what we saw in the opening game.
I would say yes, because the opener and the way that it was talked and dissected really got blown out of proportion by people that were hoping to see Carolina fail. And once it fell apart, they were able to just make it known that that's what it was the whole game. And that's not what well, excuse me. That's not what it was. It was 13-7 with 5 minutes to go before Gio threw the pick 6.
Mm-hmm.
Like it now you could tell that Carolina's defense was facing an uphill battle, and you could we could feel that Carolina was going to have to really work and earn to get that win. But it wasn't like they got drug up and down the field from the moment the game started. Like Carolina did some things really well in that first quarter and a half or so, and then it all kind of came crumbling down. There was never a moment on Saturday I thought Carolina was going to win. There was never a moment on Saturday I thought Carolina was going to be competitive once the football got kicked off. And that should not be the case year 1, year 3, year 5 of Belichick on the road at a program like Central Florida that is integrating 50 new players into their program, just 20 less than what we're doing here at Carolina. So, no, I agree with you. And I think it was a lot more disappointing just because of the quality of competition and then just how, competitive or non-competitive, and then really just how lifeless Carolina looked. Like here it was again, you're getting drugged through the mud and there wasn't a whole lot of emotion. There wasn't a whole lot of angst that you could see. We saw Belichick throw his headset, but guess what, man? That doesn't really matter a whole lot to me. When you walk off the field and you're getting greeted by your girlfriend. You can throw your headset all you want. If she's having that type of access to the field, do you really care that you're getting your butt kicked? Because that suggests to me that it doesn't. So they've got a lot to figure out. And they've got 2 weeks to do it. And the hope against Clemson, because you still don't expect them to win, is that they at least compete and they at least give a reason for those of us that'll be in the stands to stay into the stands until the fourth quarter, until the final whistle blows, as opposed to leaving early to get a good seat to watch the annual blue-white scrimmage, which will follow the football game that day on campus.
Yeah, well, at this point, I mean, I can't. If you don't want to go to the game, I can't blame you. I thought after the first game, this was a group that deserved support. After the second game, I can't really blame you if you don't want to go, because, I mean, I don't know if I want to see my team get massacred in every home game the way that I think it's possible either. We'll still go because, we're diehards, but I don't blame anybody that says, dude, this is just not worth it. Especially because there are going to be, some opponents coming in here that you can probably make some pretty good money on your tickets. I don't know if Clemson fans are going to be excited to be here. I mean, that might be a stadium that looks like one of the high school football championships, where there are, a few thousand people in there. And I wouldn't blame anybody if that's what it ultimately looks like, because Both teams are just not at all where they were expected to be. And that's the other thing. There are people that are trying to tell me that you just need patience. This was going to take time. This was a major rebuild. Just stop. Just stop with the major rebuild thing. This would not have been as big of a rebuild if it wasn't for Michael Lombardi coming in here and Bill Belichick coming in. They wanted to turn this into a culture like the NFL. Well, right now, you're the worst team in the NFL. If you're the 33rd NFL team, you are so far below what an NFL team is. It's not even funny. I mean, it's not even close to looking like what it needs to look like to get guys to the NFL level. And, again, part of that is the lack of talent, but this coaching staff just isn't doing what they need to do either. I think the patience thing is asinine too. And I mean, it's ridiculous that so many people are on board with this, saying that, well, this is going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of time for Bill to build this. Man, Bill ain't here for the long haul, guys. Bill is here for maybe 3 years, if that. And if it gets bad enough, I don't even know if he's here next year. Not that Carolina's going to fire him. You invested the money into this. This move, you have to stick with this move as long as Bill Belichick wants to be here. But he may say after this year, yeah, this just ain't for me, man. And I'm out. And then what do you do? So the people that want to preach that, well, it's going to take a little bit of time to build this. You might not have that time. That's the thing that doesn't make any sense to me. That time may be up before you even imagine that it is going to be up. So, I mean, yeah, you can preach, well, just wait until next year when he gets this recruiting class in here. First of all, if he doesn't start winning at some sort of level here, that recruiting class may not hold together. That recruiting class may fall apart. And then you get into the notion of, well, they're going to have a transfer portal, a full transfer portal cycle. Who is banging down the door to play for this program? So all that thought that, hey, 2026 is going to be the year, man, they're going to be able to compete. Well, if things get that bad this year, they're not going to be able to compete. And then what are you saying? Let's wait for 2027? Or, oh, man, 2028 is going to look really great. Dude, 2028, there's a good chance that Bill Belichick is not on this sideline, and that nobody on this staff is on this sideline. So, I mean, that to me is just as asinine as the people that are suggesting that that they approach this like preseason. Both of those notions to me just drive me insane.
Yeah, because no one, I think, wants to hear that. So you don't hire Bill Belichick to preach the message of patience and rebuild, whether that was reality or not. That's not what you send when you pay a coach $10 million. That's not the message that you send when you quite literally gave him every financial resource that Mac Brown begged for and refused to give.
You hired a 73-year-old coach to preach patience?
Like, I think, that's something that it's kind of disheartening. Like, you gave him everything that you refused to give Mac Brown. And your program is in a worse spot under Bill Belichick than it ever was under Mac Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably why Mac Brown is, if you haven't noticed, kind of distanced himself from Carolina. Like, he's back doing the Texas thing, man. He's doing media stuff for them. He'll retweet some stuff from like the guys that he coached at Carolina doing with stuff for the NFL, but it's not like he wants to be a part of what Bill Belichick's doing, because they gave Bill Belichick a lot of the things that he publicly asked for and then got ridiculed by Ben. Basically got called a complainer and a whiner for saying, I need this, and this so I can win. And then they bring in Belichick, they give him all that, and the program's in a worse spot than it ever was under Mac. And I think it's fair to question. and this is coming from someone that believed in the hire, that championed the hire as much as I think anybody that has the platform. It's fair to question, can Bill Belichick get us to where Mac Brown had us? Can Bill Belichick get Carolina to 9-1 with a Heisman Trophy contending quarterback? Can Bill Belichick get Carolina to 6-0? And the way we all felt after they beat Miami at home 2 years ago in a game that was kicked off at 7:30 at night on ABC with a lot of people in the country watching Carolina play. Is that possible? Is that going to happen? And if your answer is no, I can't get mad at you. I can't blame you, because the way that it's looked, it's okay to not believe that that's going to happen. And I think we were all, I mean, I know I was when he got hired. I mean, I haven't dreamed bigger dreams in my life for what this program could be as a football entity under Bill Belichick, because it finally felt real that they could compete for a conference championship. It felt real that in a 12-team expanded playoff, soon to be 16, we could watch this team legitimately compete on a championship stage in football. And maybe all that stuff is still possible. Maybe all that stuff is still attainable. But it seems a lot further than it should be when you hire some of the coaching pedigree of Bill Belichick. And that's where Carolina finds itself. And you know, I said it's gut check time for the coaching staff and the players. I think it's gut check time for a fan base that I think is starved for consistent success on the football field. And it's gut check time for this administration that tells you that they want to win and they want to compete and they want to be big time in football. Because if we sit here 4 weeks in, we can all sit here and say this has not gone the way that we expected it to go, and we'll be watching with a keen eye the last 8 games they play here in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, you can dream that what, you know, and maybe those things are still something that they can accomplish at some point. But I mean, the way that it started, it's turning into a nightmare. And I think that this was something that we probably should have taken more into account when you made the hire, that things could go this wrong, that things did go as poorly as they did at the end in New England. But I think we all wanted to believe that this was Carolina buying into the sport of football more than they ever had before. And the money would tell you that they are. But, I mean, this hire, I think it could end up turning out to be one of the biggest jokes in the history of Carolina football. It's just going to take, a time to see whether or not that pans out. I'm not saying that's where it's at right now. I am not someone that is out on the Bill Belichick experiment yet, but I'm telling you that right now, the direction that it's heading in, things are not looking great. And this is certainly not what we were expecting right out of the gate with this group. We expected this group to be more competitive. We expected this group to at least be able to have them at the level that Mac Brown had them. And right now, we're looking like the end of Larry Fedora here, guys. Yeah. Like, this team looks like there is just no talent out there. They're not going to be able to compete with anybody. I mean, how bad could this season get? I mean, we're talking about this team maybe winning 4 games this year. And that would be probably a better season than expected. Because right now, if you look at their schedule and you told me, okay, you got to find wins on the schedule, can you find one? I can find maybe one remaining. And that is Stanford. And that team, by the way, already has a conference win. Something that you may not do this year. That it may take you until that game against Stanford to be able to accomplish. They already beat Boston College. Now, granted, it was at home, but I mean, yeah, that's the hope that Carolina has to have, is that going back home, maybe they are a team that is a little bit better, but that was just their first true road test that they had this season. And it's, for some reason, the guys didn't respond the way that they needed to, but I find that hard to believe. I think you're going to be fighting for another win throughout the rest of this season. And I just did not think that Carolina would be here under Bill Belichick. So that's going to wrap it up, guys. We do have some breaking news that is coming in on the Tar Heel front. Second player has left the team officially as of this evening. This according to 24/7 Sports. So head over to the website, heeltoughblog.com here momentarily. I'll be getting an article up about who that second player is. It is a guy along the offensive line for Carolina. I got to tell you, back-to-back weeks with players leaving the program in the middle of the season certainly doesn't look great either for this coaching staff. So a lot of turmoil right here at the start for Carolina to the Bill Belichick era. We've got you covered with everything on the website, heeltoughblog.com. Of course, we're going to be having you covered throughout the entire season, no matter what happens. This week, during the off week, I'm probably going to put together a stock report article. There's going to be a lot of guys trending down, folks. There are going to be a lot of guys in that area, but make sure that you keep an eye out for that. We'll tell you who's trending up, who's trending down. As we sit 4 weeks into the season, we haven't brought that back fully. I don't know if I'm going to bring it back after we get out of the bye week. I may potentially do that just to get some more content up there for you guys. But hell, if we got guys leaving the team like this, may not have to worry about that. We may be getting plenty of content up there on the website for you guys throughout the year. So make sure you guys do go over there and check that out. Also, make sure you check out the YouTube page. We would greatly appreciate if you could go over there and subscribe to that YouTube page. That would really help us out as we continue to try to push to get sponsors. One of the big things that they have told us when we've gone out to try to get sponsorship is we need to see those YouTube numbers come up. So if you guys could head over there to our YouTube page, give us a subscription, that would be really, really welcome from us. And we would greatly appreciate that. And also make sure you go over to the other social media channels at Heel Tough Blog on Twitter. That's the best place to get all of our content streamlined to you in one area. That's why we tell you when you go over there and follow, make sure you hit that notification button right next to the follow button so that you can get all of that stuff. You'll get a notification anytime we post an article, anytime we retweet an episode of the podcast or just post an episode of the podcast, anything like that. You guys will get that directly on your a direct notification to your phone for that. And then Facebook, make sure you like and follow the Facebook page as well. We would greatly appreciate that. Still having some trouble sharing those articles, so that is the best way to get all of our content directly to you guys. Tomorrow night, a little bit happier. We'll get back to the Four Corners podcast. We'll be talking about the opening of Carolina's season, the opening of practice, which was today. And also, we do have the blue-white scrimmage that is official. Josh told you earlier it is going to be an hour after the Clemson game, so we'll discuss that, what we expect to see in that blue-white scrimmage. Plenty of stuff for us to discuss on that side of things. And then later in the week, the What If series will continue. So plenty of great stuff for you guys to keep an eye on the basketball side of things. But we're going to be here football-wise throughout the entire season, so make sure. That's why we want you to subscribe to that YouTube page so you can get all of those videos in one central place for you guys. So that wraps it up for this edition of the podcast. Want to thank Josh for hosting with me. Want to thank you guys for watching and listening. And as always, go Tar Heels.